if you are feeling cooped up while quarantined, you're not alone. And while it's normal to feel anxious, angry, even afraid, experts warn against feeling bad about feeling bad. And here's one of them right now. Mark Rutherford is a psychotherapist in a private practice in Florida. Mark, welcome back.
Hey, Holland, nice to see you.
I had a telemedicine call with my doc a few days ago, and my dentist FaceTimed me, and his hair was even longer than mine. I imagine that if you are still interacting with your patients, you're doing the same thing. How's that going?
First of all, your hair looks great. I'm just saying. But yes, my practice, which has historically been in person, I'm going to say upwards of 90 to 95% have been Zoom, FaceTime, Google Hangout, you name it. Every once in a while, there is someone who comes into the office, but for the most part, you know, after 8 hours, your eyes kind of go a little crossed doing the Zoom all day.
Yeah. The last time you and I spoke, Mark, was the very last show that I did from the broadcast center at RT America in Washington before they sent us all home. How, since then, have the folks that you counsel adapted? What's the mood?
Okay, so you see two kind of very clear trajectories of what happens. You know, people either kind of spin out of control. You see them getting more and more anxious, more and more depressed. Some of their coping mechanisms begin to break down. And then you see the other kind of group of people which, recalibrate and reprioritize and kind of settle in for the long haul. The people who are reprioritizing tend to do better. But the longer that this pandemic goes on, the people who have kind of begun to escalate, there's nowhere else for them to go. So you see the cracks beginning to show.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And while we have you here, let's hit on you for some free advice. We'll all slide onto the virtual couch. Give us some tips for making the most of this stay-at-home time.
So there's a number of things. One is to just normalize the process. Right? In our last conversation, I think I said, you know, keep calm and wash your hands. That still applies today. The idea is that this is something larger than us. You know, we human beings like the ability to control our lives. And in this moment in time, there is a very clear lack of control. And so you look at the things that you can control. Your schedule, try to wake up at a normal time, try to work out. You know, I always say, get up, work out, then go to your bedroom to go to work. You know, make sure you do a lunch break, make sure you eat well. You know, these kind of very, you know, specific kind of low cost coping techniques tend to work because it's a day-to-day piece. It's a one day at a time component.
You do a lot of work with children. What is the best way to tell kids why we're quarantining and why we're walking around with face masks without freaking them out?
Yeah, so I have a lot of parents that come in and I see kids as young as 5 to 6 years of age, all the way through teenagers in college. And it's that old saying, think globally, but act locally. These kids, so the developing mind for children is not fully formed. You know, for girls, it's a little, it happens a little quicker, 19, 20. Boys, they don't really get the full development until 24, 25. And so trying to have them watch the news or talk about the economic impact or the political impact or the, you know, or any of the larger pieces tends to be like, you know, Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, 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 wah. The way that you can speak to them is be very specific. So you're walking into the grocery store, your child doesn't want to put on a mask. You have a very kind of simple conversation with them around highlighting someone that they know, like a school teacher or their grandparent. Like, we're putting this mask on so we protect grandma. And that's as much as they need to know at any given moment. You don't have to go into all of the, you know, the layers of the medical risks around not wearing a mask. You give them something tangible that they can hold on to as to why they're doing it. It helps them feel like they're making a difference and doing something good.
You know, you just paraphrased a great line that Governor Jay Inslee from Washington said a while back when a reporter asked, what will be the penalties for things like going to see your grandfather in the nursing home? And he said, your grandpa could die. And that's a little dire to tell little kids. Would you advise parents to have children, young children, avoid watching the news, watch the news with you and talking about it? Where on the spectrum do you come down on that?
Well, not only for kids, but for adults, I recommend taking news sabbaticals. You know, when we get caught up and you're staying at home, it's easy to keep the TV on 24/7, and we get ramped up around the anxiety, the music playing in the background, and the repetitiveness of the stories coming out. And so, yes, keep the kids away from the TV for the most part. There's been a number of different networks that have done like coronavirus news for children. That's okay, but don't have them watch too much, and really focus on the positive with them. What's the old Cole Porter song? Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. Like, focus on the good that they can do. Not, you know, if you don't wear a mask, your grandma is going to die, but this is going to really help keep your grandma safe and happy and healthy, so we can see her next summer on our trip up, you know, wherever we're going. Kind of paint the picture for them.
Yeah, glass half full. A lot of what I'm seeing on Facebook may be misleading, but I'm seeing little kids dressing up, and I'm seeing them zip down the zip line that Dad set up in the backyard, and some of the other creative ways that parents are occupying kiddos' times. Antsy as we may all be, shouldn't we strive to make this a time we're going to remember fondly?
Yes, that's what I love about seeing some of those stories. You know, these parents have become so creative, and they're trying to create memories. You know, we all know what the story here is, and it's not great. And the kids, although they're going to grow up and look back on this in retrospect and understand it, right now they don't. And so what we can give them are as many positive memories, experiences, interactions that we can give them, so we kind of build up the cachet of experiences so it isn't all negative.
Yeah. Hey, we are more sobered than surprised to hear that domestic violence calls are up while we're quarantined. Talk about triggers, how to avoid them, and what to do when things become untenable at home.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up. You know, they've actually come out with a new term. It's called interpersonal violence, and they're extracting the domestic component from it because of so many of the upticks of anger and aggression. What we know about anxiety is that it's a fear-based mechanism, and fear is a vulnerable emotion to have. So many people kind of manifest the fear or anxiety that they're feeling in this kind of angry or aggressive behavior. So whether it's a spouse to a spouse, whether it's a parent to a child, whether it's neighbors, you know, or people at the grocery store, you see fights breaking out. You know, all of this kind of bad negative interaction is understandable, but it isn't helpful. And so the idea behind that is to, you know, kind of lower your anxiety by doing the things that make you feel better, and you know, attempt to be, I always say, kind and honest. Tattoo that on the inside of your forehead. That gets you through a majority of the situations in this troubling time.
Yeah, we are social animals who have been deprived of socializing. Churches are closed. The faithful are unable to worship the president at these arena rallies he's been doing. My beloved baseball should be 2 months into the season by now, and we keep anticipating this phased reopening, but it will be different. Baseball is probably just going to be a TV show with nobody in the stands. After 9/11, we seem to have adapted understandingly to the new normal. Can you see that happening again when all of this is behind us with new normal rules?
You know, we're social creatures by nature. And so I think that it is always going to be somewhat of a struggle. But, you know, human beings are resilient. We are Darwinian by nature. We seek to survive. And so at some point we will settle into something that feels okay enough. It may never feel normal. It may never feel great as far as the entirety of this situation. But there is, I think, going to be a new stride that this kind of collective consciousness that we take on. It will begin to look different.